Welcome back to Hope for the Grieving, the virtual healing experience showing you how to ease your heartache and move through grief to create a beautiful life after loss. I'm your host, Erin Patton. I'm so grateful your path has led you here, and I truly cannot wait to see where this journey leads you. Let's meet today's guest. I'm so thrilled to be here with our next guest, Karen. She is about to open me up to a world I know basically nothing about, which I'm really excited for. And for anyone who has lost a pet, I know this conversation is going to be just so healing for us both. Karen Anderson is an award-winning animal communicator and best-selling author specializing in pet loss and the afterlife. She has documented her journey with her books, The Amazing Afterlife of Animals and Hear All Creatures. She also offers animal communication coaching programs for all skill levels and ongoing support for those struggling with the loss of a beloved companion. Karen is the CEO and founder of Painted Rain Ranch, a nonprofit 30-acre animal sanctuary in the inland Pacific Northwest. The sanctuary provides a final refuge for elderly, special needs, and abandoned companion animals. Karen, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Erin. Thanks so much for having me here.
I know this is going to be such a great conversation, and I'm so intrigued by what you do as an animal communicator. But can we start off by you sharing with us when you realized you had these abilities and what that experience was like for you?
Absolutely. I mean, to anyone who's new to animal communication, it sounds a little crazy, right? Animals can't talk. What do you mean? And I was there too. I really was. I was in that place. I had spent 20 years in the mortgage industry, hated it, but, paid the bills. And then this almost like a spiritual awakening. I don't know what else to call it. That sounds really out there, but I became so aware that I needed to give something back, that there was more to life than mortgages and interest rates. I just felt something changing within me. So that's when my journey began. And I started looking toward what I loved, which was the animals. And I had really, truly felt the pain from the loss of my beloved pets. And that kind of prompted me to move in that direction and discover animal communication. And I'm telling you, it is a game changer. It is a total, like, whole new world. Blew my mind. Didn't even know it was possible, let alone that I would be able to do it. So
Yeah.
my discovery goes way back. I I remembered that I could do this as a child.
Oh,
So
wow.
we have these memories, right? That kind of are hidden down below, and then something will trigger it. And then I remembered being able to understand my family pet when I was a little girl, and these little memories started trickling in. I'm like, I can do this. So that's where it all began. I mean, it started out a long time ago, and then in my, I don't know, mid 30s or so, I had this sense that there was more to life, and I wanted
Wow.
more.
Oh my gosh, I love that. So do you communicate with all types of animals, or is it everything, or is it just like certain ones?
Well, mostly because of the work that I did for the past 26 years. It was cats and dogs and horses and a few parrots thrown in there, some bunny rabbits,
Oh,
mainly, companion animals, because that's what my clients had. But the same process applies to any animal, wildlife, it doesn't matter. The process is the same, the technique is the same, the answers are different. The messages are very different, as you
oh,
can
I'm
imagine.
sure. Yeah.
Wild animal isn't going to talk about their food bowl or, what you had for breakfast in the morning. But, you have to really open up your heart and your mind to realize that, we're not the only creatures on this planet. We share this planet, and we all need to find our place and respect those that are here with us and honor them and their uniqueness. So it's really all animals, but 99.9% of my work is, cats, dogs, horses,
Yeah.
bunnies.
Oh, that's amazing. So when you realized this is what you were able to do, were you talking to your family and friends about it? Like, how did they respond to this? Were they
Not
open
not
to it
good.
or no? No.
So To shed a little bit more light on the story, I was actually a deputy sheriff in Colorado. Now,
Mhm.
my family was already up in arms that I wanted to be a cop. You know, they thought I was crazy already. So then throw on that another layer of me telling them that I could communicate with animals. Then they really were like, okay, Karen's lost it. She's completely off her rocker. So at that point, I think they just kind of, whatever, and they didn't really give it much credibility. And I
Mhm.
struggled for a very long time because I had no support system. It was
Oh,
just me. Yeah. And this was a long time ago. I mean, I'm talking about, 1997. So we're going way back. And it's not like now where you type it into an internet search and there's like millions of animal communicators.
yeah.
Back then, not so much. So they thought I was totally nuts.
I'm so sad you didn't have that support. Like when I found you, I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's such a gift." I just think it's so incredible that you have this ability. So yeah, you've had a really interesting journey through your career in the mortgage industry, law enforcement as deputy sheriff, and now as a pet loss specialist. So I know you kind of combined your work like with the law enforcement and the animal communication, right? So can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. I mean, what a weird combination,
Yeah,
right?
it is
So
like two totally different worlds.
my whole life has just been one big weird thing, but it's okay. I love it. So when it was happening, it didn't make any sense. But now, as I look back on it, of course, it all makes sense and I can connect the dots and go, oh, that's why that happened. So while I was a deputy, I was often working by myself in a mountain district. There were no backup cars for, maybe 45 minutes to an hour away at times. It's not like what you see on TV where, 40 cars pull in. So
Yeah.
I was basically the only female officer. I was working alone on the swing shift and I had to be very careful for my own personal safety. So I went home every night. And what I discovered was I had a heightened sense of awareness just for safety reasons. And that actually tipped the first domino for the animal communication
Wow.
abilities to open up. So once I tipped that domino and I became more aware, crazy things started happening. Animals on crime scenes started giving me messages that were more accurate, I would come to find out later, than the interviews I had with the people
Oh
on
my
scene.
goodness. That's
So I
insane.
thought,
That's so cool.
wow, what an opportunity as a police officer to have this other source of information. Now, granted, I could not put that into my police report. Can you imagine? Well, my confidential informant has four legs and a tail, but he told me that the bad guy is this person and that
Yeah.
number. So I had
That
to be
must have
very.
been weird to navigate, like this information you're receiving and then trying to make it legit so you can like, figure out how to put it on paper. What an experience.
I told nobody. Nobody knew what was going on in this crazy head. So I had been studying animal communication for my own animals because I had a lot and I have always had a lot of animals. So I was trying to connect with them on a higher level. I was trying to understand them so I could take care of them better. And then I was trying to connect with them in the afterlife because the loss just flattened me.
Mhm.
So that was the sideline I was doing. And then it just kind of combined. It all came together. And police work actually catapulted me down this path. Sounds crazy.
Wow.
That's how it all happened.
Yeah, what a crazy ride. I love your story. I just think it's so cool. Um, so for people who have lost a pet and they do want to see an animal communicator to get a reading and connect with them, what can they expect from that type of reading?
Well, first of all, I would tell you, do your homework. You want to go with someone who is trusted, established, has great reviews. You want to look at, all kinds of different um, facets of the specialist that you choose. Now, I retired from conducting sessions several years ago,
Hmm.
and I felt like after 26 years, it was time to shift into writing. And so now I work with a specialist and I trust her with my pets. She's amazing. And you just really have to find someone that you're drawn to. So maybe someone I like isn't going to be who you resonate with. And that's okay. But it has to come from a sense or a feeling like, I really want to connect this person with my pet. I really feel good about them. So that's the first thing. You really have to go with that gut feeling,
Mm.
that intuition of who you trust. And there's a lot of them out there now. So please do your homework first and then trust your instincts, go with that. And then you want to be very clear because their styles can be very different. So like I was an evidential medium. Evidential medium means I don't just tell you that your beloved pet is fine on the other side and everything's great and they love you. I actually would get specific details, evidence that only they would know.
Okay.
Maybe something you had for breakfast the day before, or the color car that you drive,
Hmm.
or their favorite place where they would hang out, or just little bits of evidence. This is the combining of the law
Yeah.
enforcement. And that's where my strength was. Now, not everybody communicates that way. Some aren't evidential. So you really have to look into it and discover, what's going to really help you on your process and in your journey into animal communication, because there's very, very many different types of methods out there, unique to everyone. So that would be my first recommendation.
Hmm. Yeah, I was going to ask if there's anything we can do like to best prepare or ask to get the most out of the experience, but I think everyone's questions or experience is so different. So just maybe come with an like set an intention for the reading and come with like whatever questions like will solve like the way that you're feeling emotionally that will bring you peace and happiness going forward to like have those answers.
Right. So I think you said it there. We all want answers, right?
Hmm.
We have questions, we want answers. So my next recommendation, and this is important, so listen to this one. Don't bring a laundry list of questions.
Okay.
That can actually ruin your session. And let me explain why. Animals, especially those on the other side, they don't necessarily want to talk about what you want to talk about. They're having this grand adventure, this
Mhm.
amazing experience. And if you only want to talk about the day they died, or how they died, or where they went missing, or why they went missing, or why they're fighting with so and so, or why they're not using the litter box, you're kind of suppressing the whole purpose of animal communication, which is to open lines of communication. So you
Mm.
want to be
Yeah.
very open to any message that your pet wants to share. Now, maybe scheduling a second or third follow up down the road. Don't do them back to back. You have to allow kind of time for energy to build up and messages to build up. Then you can maybe go in and focus in on an issue, or maybe, just more details about something. But when you first go in your very first time, just say, you know what? I'm open to whatever they want to share, whoever
Yeah.
they want to breathe through, whatever they want to talk about. I'm open to anything. If you do that, you're going to have a great session. If you go in there and you have this, laundry list, tink, 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 I want answers to all these questions. Guess what? Your animal is likely going to go, bye, and they're going to check out and not pay attention during
Mhm.
the whole session because that's boring.
Oh,
It's
that's so
boring.
good to know. Such great advice. And I think, yeah, by just remaining open and hearing what they have to say, like hear things that are probably so specific that will just confirm, like, yes, like, of course, that's
And
them.
and then the next bit of advice goes hand in hand with that. And that is, Erin, to keep your expectations in check. What I mean by that is, if you set your expectations too high, you're going to be disappointed. So go with the expectation that you're just open to the process and you're not going to expect this to be like a knock it out of the park, grand slam, home run, blow your mind. If you do that and set yourself up, it'll fail. So you have to really be reasonably balanced when you go into the session and be as emotionally calm as you can be. So if you bring, middle of the road expectations, you want it to be good and you're excited, perfect. Keep it right in there. And then you want to be aware of your emotional state. So this goes out to those who are struggling with a loss. I know we all want answers and we want to connect after we lose one of our beloved companions. But if you bring a strong emotion of any kind, too much joy and happiness can have the same effect as grief or sorrow, guilt, blame. Any strong emotion can interfere with the transference of messages, because what we're doing when we communicate with an animal communicator is intercepting an energetic message like a radio wave or like a cell phone connection. We're intercepting that, we're pulling information towards us, bringing it in, and then we're relaying it back to you. So if you have a strong emotion, it's like static.
Yeah.
It really disrupts the flow of energy. So keep your emotions in check. I would tell my clients to wait at least 6 months after a loss before we did an afterlife communication, simply because of that really super high emotional imbalance. And the other thing about it is, and you know this probably all too well, when you are deeply grieving, you almost have tunnel vision. Your brain isn't able to expand because you're here. Yeah. And that may cause you to miss out on many different messages or nuances or things that come through in your session because your focal point is so small from the grief. Grief is heavy on us, it weighs us down. And in animal communication session, we have to be open. Those are two opposites. That's like, oil and water, they don't mix. So I recommend waiting till you're emotionally calm. Tears are okay, but if you are swinging out of, emotional upset and you're all over the place and you can't even, think about them without bursting into tears, probably not a good idea to schedule till you're calm. And those are some things that can really help you just get the best out of your session. And the other little trick, this little trick I'll share with you, even if it's a living animal, right? Doesn't matter. Living or departed, doesn't matter. Tell them that you're going to have, like, for instance, if I were doing it, I have my friend Karen Anderson. She's going to communicate with you. And I want you to be as open with her as you feel comfortable. Send her all kinds of messages or tell her whatever she asks.
Yeah, like invite them in, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Tell them. Yes, tell them what's going on so that they're not just lying there. Let's say, I have one right here behind me. His name is Beanie the Weenie, and he's a little Italian greyhound. So what if I didn't tell him that, let's say Aaron Patton, the animal communicator, was going to communicate with him? All of a sudden he's lying there having a nice little nap, and Aaron comes energetically knocking, and he has no clue who this is. He's like, who are you? And what are you doing here? And why are you asking me questions about my mom? Some might get a little defensive, some won't, but some might. So you just have to think of it as if you were meeting a person for the same time or introducing your pet to a person for the same time. Use those same skills. Oh, my friend Erin Patton is going to be connecting with you, and she's wonderful, and she's going to ask you all kinds of questions and share as much as you want. And I'm excited, and I can't wait to hear what you have to say. That's going to improve the connection. And while your pet may not understand every single word like a human would understand, they're going to get the emotion behind it
Right.
and sense your excitement and that this is something positive and something good rather than something like, whoa, hey, who are you? I don't know you. You know, you're a total stranger. So this can
Yeah.
really help your pet have the best experience, even if they're on the other side. Same thing. Talk to them out loud. Call to them. Say, you know, I just lost one on New Year's Day. His name is Birdie.
Mhm.
Say, Birdie, my dear friend Erin Patton is going to be connecting with you. And, you know, I want to hear all about your experience and tell her everything that you feel comfortable with. Saying that out loud sets the intention, just as you
Yeah.
were talking about. And
Mm.
it gets everyone on the same page. You're basically making things easier for the animal communicator. So that's always a good thing when you
Yeah.
make it easier for the animal communicator. And I can also share what not to do.
That
So,
would be great. Mhm.
okay, this is just as important as what to do. Um, Never test the animal communicator.
Okay.
So what do I mean by that? Okay, testing an animal communicator means, first of all, you don't trust them. So why are you paying them money to communicate with your beloved companion if you don't trust them?
Mm.
Okay, so that's bad on you, right? So that's the first thing. And what I mean by that is testing means that you're asking questions where you already know the answer. So that is in complete opposite of the nature of animal communication.
Mm.
We communicate so we can understand them on a higher level, so we can understand things about them that we don't know, or that maybe we can learn more about. What is it like to be a cat or a dog or a horse or a fish or a snake or a rabbit? What does it feel like? What is that experience like when you leave your body and go into the afterlife? Ask questions that you don't know the answers to, and don't expect it to be what a human would say.
Mhm.
They're not human, and they won't respond like a human. They're going to respond energetically, which comes from the heart. See,
Mhm.
we respond, it comes from our brain, right? And then it works its way down and it comes out as language. Animals don't do that. Everything comes from here. So you cannot expect them to respond in a way that a human would. You can't expect them to reason the way a human would. They don't understand things like the past, like why do we dwell in the past? Why do we focus on how they died? Why do we blame ourselves, you know, a month, 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years later? Why do we blame ourselves for how they died? They don't understand that. Those are human concepts, not animal concepts. So
Okay. Wow, that's
once
such important information.
once you get out of your own way, because we call that ego. It's not
Mm.
ego in the sense of, you know, an egomaniac. It's ego in the sense of your left brain is your ego brain. And that's the side that wants to structure and categorize and
Mhm.
get everything in order. And it kind of wants to take control. We are all brought up mainly in left brain society. You know, we stay safe. We look both ways across the street before we cross it. You know, we don't jump off bridges. This is ego helping us survive. It's what kind of kept us alive back in the caveman days, right? So we didn't get eaten by T-Rex. So when we shift into right brain, this is where we find peace and balance. And this is where communication actually takes place, is right brain. And
Okay.
so we leave all of that categorizing and structure and reasons why, you know, it doesn't matter. None of that matters to animals. They live in right now in the moment, here and now. When you live in the past, guess what? You keep them in the past. And that is
Okay.
counterproductive to their spiritual journey. So you are actually causing speed bumps in their path. That was a big one for me.
Yeah.
That's where I was like, oh, I do that. I'm guilty of that. So we have to remember, yes, this is our journey. We are spiritual beings having a physical experience here. We'll come back many times. We'll reincarnate many times. Usually, it's not more than every 100 years. And I'm speaking in big time generals right now. And what I mean by this is we as humans come back because we call them life lessons to learn, right? So we keep coming back. Let's say your life theme is forgiveness. You'll keep coming back in human form over the millennia and millennia and millennia, and you'll keep having those lessons about forgiveness until you get it right, until you learn to forgive, and it'll keep going. And that's how you grow as how your soul grows. Animals have a spiritual path, but they don't have lessons to learn like we do. They're here to enhance our journey. They're here to help us be better spiritual beings having a physical experience by what? Sharing their unconditional love, by giving us more than what they take from us, right? And by just being our support system. Nobody loves me the way my animals love me. I know my mom and dad love me, but that's different. I'm their mama and they love me, and there's nothing else like that. I know that those of you who are watching this, you can totally relate to me. There's no love like that. And they're here to enhance our journey. So, yes, they're having the spiritual experience as we are, but it's very different than the human experience. So, you have to separate and remember they are animal, they are cat, they are dog, they are horse, they are, whatever they are, not human. So we don't want to put our humanness on them. We want to allow them to be the incredible cat, dog, horse, whatever they are, that they are meant to be in this lifetime, and embrace that and learn about it. What can you share? Do you know about the universe? Do you know about how stars were formed? How many times have you reincarnated? Ask questions in your session that you don't know the answers to, and then don't poo-poo it simply because it sounds either absurd or crazy or whatever. Some of the best messages that I've received over the years have been the craziest messages of all. At least I thought they were crazy, and I almost didn't give them because I thought that's too crazy. I can't give that message. They'll think I'm totally nuts. So we have to get out of our own way. We have to really allow our animal companions to be who they are. Don't place human concepts on them. I had one client ask me one time who is going to be the next president. I said, I don't even know how to ask that question, because first of all, they don't care about,
Exactly.
about politics.
I think that I feel like people are really looking for like that confirmation that it's them. Do you think is that why they do like these test questions? It's like,
okay,
yeah,
yeah.
they have to know for sure. They have to know this is real. But I think when you're so open, like we were saying, like you will get that confirmation by the experiences and like the evidence you were saying.
Yeah, what you're asking me is so true. So we are looking for validation. We all want validation. Okay. I want validation when I have a communication session for my animals. That's normal. We want to feel that it's really them that is being communicated with. So that's absolutely true. So in that, the best way, again, to get that validation is to encourage them to share details, encourage them to talk about something specific. Tell them about all the things that we did together. Tell them about, something specific. You can encourage them to talk about those things, and then don't try to hold them to it. Just see what comes through. And I know that it can be very frustrating. Like I've heard from many clients who came to me that said, I had a session with another communicator. It was just so general. It's just like nothing but, oh, they love you and they miss you. And, it's love, love, love. But, there were just no specifics. And Erin, unfortunately, that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Sometimes the animals aren't forthcoming. Sometimes they don't share those details. Sometimes the animal communicator is not as skilled as another communicator. See, I used all different methods of obtaining information. If I couldn't get something from the animal, I would go to my helpers. We call them guides, spirit guides. If I couldn't get the details from them, I would go to the animals, spirit guides and helpers. I would use all different resources that I could to gain information. And not all animal communicators know how to do that because it's an expert level skill to be able to pull that information and tap into the details that your client wants.
Yeah.
So it is truly something that a very advanced expert level animal communicator can do. So that sets me on the next thing. Sometimes you get what you pay for.
Mm-hmm. So
So
would
if
you
you're
say if someone has like a reading that they weren't super happy with, just give it some time and find someone else who maybe you resonate a little bit more with?
will always give your animal communicator feedback.
Okay.
Always, even if they don't ask for it. Some are afraid to ask for feedback. I used to be afraid. Now it was, just later on, I was like, no, right in the moment. Does this make sense to you? Do you understand this? They should be bringing you into the session saying, okay, Erin, does, for instance, I'm seeing frogs everywhere. Why am I seeing frogs? And you say, oh, my grandmother had a frog collection, or I used to collect frogs when I was a kid. You should be conversing with your communicator during the session and giving the validations. And if something comes through that doesn't make sense, I don't want you to discount it right away, because many times that's ego coming in going, nah, that's not real, disregard. So you have to give it some time to let that message kind of percolate around and resonate. Even me, I forget stuff sometimes. It's called psychic amnesia. And what happens is we get so caught up in the moment, we forget who we are, we forget who we're connected to, we forget our relatives' names, we forget the little details. And then when we hang up the phone and we sit around and think about it, we're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot that.
Yeah.
So if something comes through your session and it doesn't resonate, just say, I can't think of it right now. It's not coming to me right now, but I'll circle back with you on that. And your communicator should be open to that kind of feedback. We call it new information in the business. It's new information, or you just haven't remembered it yet. The other things, this is really cool. Not quite sure how they do it, but they'll bring up something that hasn't happened yet.
Wow, really?
Especially animals in the afterlife. They can see past, present, future all at the same time.
Wow.
And not saying a living animal can't do that, because they can. Now, I can't tell you how many animals have said to me, oh, mom and dad are taking a trip, and I'll see like palm trees and beaches and stuff. And they're like, oh my God, how'd they know that? Well, the reason they know is because as you're talking and planning your vacation, you're picturing those things in your mind, and your animals can read those pictures like you and I read a book. So it's like, oh, mom and dad are talking about palm trees and white beaches and going in an airplane or whatever. They don't necessarily get the entire gist of it, but they can relay little segments to me, and my little pea brain can go, oh, I'm seeing palm trees and white sand beaches and an airplane. You must be taking a trip.
That's
So
amazing.
it is, right? And it's so cool. So that's the other really cool thing to remember. Sometimes we get a full picture of what's happening. Sometimes we get little bits and pieces of it. Sometimes we get hardly anything. Like I was always asking for names, dates, places, very specific evidential information. You don't always get that, but I wanted those validations for my client, because those are the most healing messages, when they can say beyond a shadow of a doubt, nobody knew that, Karen. Nobody knew that except my pet. So I know you're talking to my pet. but the animals don't always share how we would like them to share, or they'll share in their way. So this is a funny example. Many, many years ago, I was connecting with a horse, living horse, and I was just asking him what his favorite thing, what his favorite treat was. I asked what his favorite treat was, and he showed me a banana.
Hmm.
And I did that. I went, banana. You know, you'd think carrot or apple, right? Or sugar cube or, you know, some molasses, something, but a banana. I was like, oh my gosh. So I almost didn't say it because it sounded too ridiculous. So I
Mm.
went ahead and shared that with the client, and it was a man, and he started chuckling and he says, well, that's too funny. And he went on to explain that when he and his horse went trail riding, he'd always bring a brown paper bag with his lunch in it. And he always brought a banana because it traveled well, I guess. I don't know. And he'd stop and sit down and have his lunch break and sit there, and his horse would watch him eat this banana. He says, I would always hold the banana out to my horse and go, would you want to bite? The horse would come up and go,
Oh my
no,
gosh.
probably not. I'm not interested in that. But it was like their little moment. It was
Yeah.
their little thing that they did. Now,
Oh,
just because the horse didn't eat the banana doesn't mean it can't be their favorite treat. It was a favorite moment, which was a treat for the horse to
oh
spend
my
with his human,
gosh.
right?
That's special.
So you can't put things into right or wrong. You know, there's a lot of gray area when it comes to animal communication. You kind of have to help make it part of what's happening. And I don't mean take a round peg and put it in a square hole. I mean, if you stop and listen to what the animal is saying and pay attention, you know, just because it's not the way a human would say it doesn't mean that it's wrong. You just
Yeah.
have to look at it with, you know, a wider perspective.
I'm sure as
But
humans, we just overanalyze things and we complicate everything. It's our nature, you know?
it totally is. And, you know, I have just so many stories I could tell you and bore you to death, I'm sure. But it truly is something that it's life changing. And what really has helped me, and this is the important part that I wanted to share with you on this summit for grief, is had it not been, sorry, had it not been for the messages I got from Birdie
Mm.
about an hour after he left his body, I don't know if I could have gotten through that loss.
Mm.
Um, it was so beautiful, and he told me that he felt so much love from me and that he really was okay.
Mm.
He was diabetic and he went into a diabetic coma, and I couldn't get him out
Oh,
of the coma, and I tried everything. So I really felt responsible for his passing. And we feel responsible for them, right? But if I hadn't heard his message, Aaron, that was like so important for
mm.
me to hear that.
And I'm sure
I
it shows
don't,
everything going forward.
so I want to share with those of you who are watching one message, one tiny little message can help you be a better caretaker, a better human, help you through your grief. It can help you. It's not going to take your pain away. I mean, maybe eensy beensy beensy weensy weensy bits, but the pain is part of it. So it goes together. We can't avoid it. It's there. But it'll help you at least understand where before you didn't, or you didn't know, or you were stuck in blame or guilt or self-hatred. I've had some clients write to me that they were so angry at themselves, they want to end their life.
Mm.
Just they've said, nope, I don't want to do this anymore. because they felt so responsible for what happened. And I'm telling you, that is so hard to hear because it's not what the animals want from us. They truly are so much wiser than we are. I mean, so much wiser, like beyond comprehension. They know on such a high level that it's not about how many years they were here. It's not about, whether you gave the wrong dose or not. It's not about, yeah, it's not about the mistakes you made. It's not about any of that. It's about this love that you share. It sounds ridiculous and corny and so, obvious, almost too saturated to be real, but that's what it really comes down to, is what we have in our heart and how we feel about them, and that we would move mountains for them. They know this.
I think that's so important for people to hear. I mean, I think so many people, they've lost their pets in just really upsetting and horrible ways, either suddenly or maybe they had to make the extremely tough decision to put them down from injury or illness or anything like that, which is its own traumatic experience on top of the loss. And gosh, it's so tough. And I think the not knowing if they're okay when they pass or how they're feeling, if they're happy, if they know that they're loved, and that, like, we make the best decisions possible. It can just trigger so much self-blame and sadness for people, and it really holds us back from moving on.
It does. I know for me, I go down the rabbit hole. So I'll call myself somewhat of a hypocrite because, I preach this, love conquers all, but it doesn't mean I'm not going to still experience that. I'm still going to feel that way. I'm now able to come out of that rabbit hole faster or easier, or I feel lighter about it, or maybe I don't go as far down the rabbit hole as I've gone in the past, but I'm still, a human, and I still feel and hurt just like everyone else does. And I have to take everything that I've learned from the animals and go, okay, listen to what you've been telling your clients for years and now apply it to yourself. It's really hard to do that sometimes.
It is. Oh my gosh,
It
so is.
It's really hard, but it really comes down to it doesn't matter, even if you have to make the horrible decision. I call it the impossible decision of euthanasia. We blame ourselves for ending our pets' lives. Who are we to end their life, and make that decision? Did I wait too long? Did I take them too soon? I mean, there's just all this turmoil and trauma and blah. I want to let everyone know that your pet, none of that hits their radar. None of it. That's your human experience. That's not the animal.
Said about the animals, everything they communicate just comes from the heart. They're not, in their head like we are. It's just like everything comes from the heart and from love. And I think that's so special.
It is. And I think that's the big takeaway, is you can do what I did and beat yourself up for decades, until I started listening to what I was preaching, and realize that we are being the best we can be, even when we make mistakes. That's what we're part of the process. And what Birdie told me in that message was that's what needed to happen. It wasn't an intentional, like I set out to do him harm. That's not what it was. It was totally unintentional. I had misinformation and it happened. But that was his journey, not me doing that to him. That was his journey. Sometimes bad things just happen. Sometimes accidents happen. And I'm not saying that an accident happens on purpose. I'm not saying that at all, because sometimes accidents happen. But if they didn't leave you at that moment, there's going to be something else that takes them because that's their journey. That's what they are experiencing. It's not you're a bad parent, you're being punished, or they have it's time for them to go to the afterlife because they've done something bad here. It's not that at all. We just have to realize that everything's connected. So good and bad, give and take, all of it's connected. It's a giant web out there, an energetic web. So everything we do has a positive and negative, a pull, a release. Everything's connected. And we have to just learn that we are here to do the best we can. We're here to make mistakes. We're here to learn and become better from those mistakes in our next relationship with an animal. And they want us to move forward. Our pets don't want us to live in the past in that pain. And I have what I call these golden nuggets of wisdom that the animals have shared with me over the years, the ones that have really stuck in my mind. And I go back to time and time again because they're so important. And believe me, this is nothing I could have thought of because my little pea brain doesn't go there. But one of the hardest things I think for me was I didn't want to impede their journey. I didn't want my grief to hold them hostage or stop them from doing what they needed to do in the afterlife. I wanted them to have their incredible experience, be free and fearless, and just, be a spiritual being and continue on their path. And through animal communication, I discovered that our grief, our pain, our sorrow doesn't harm them. It doesn't stop their journey. However, it does put little speed bumps in their path. And think about this. This was what they told me that really kind of made me go, oh, who would you rather hang out with? Would you rather hang out with somebody that's happy and excited and living their life and joyful and ready to go? Or would you rather be with somebody who's beating themselves up, doesn't want to get out of bed, can't even like express themselves in a, other than sadness, blames themselves for everything? I mean, I could go on and on, but think about that.
Yeah.
Who would you rather spend most of your time with?
So can feel that just like hit me a little bit. Yeah.
Right. So it doesn't mean ignore your feelings. No, no, no. It doesn't mean suppress your feelings. No, no, no. It just means that your departed animal companions are far more likely to interact with you and send you signs and messages and let you know that they're present with you when you are living your life the fullest, when your heart is full, when your heart is open, and when you are balanced and living the best life you can live.
I love that. I think like as someone who sees my pets as my children, like I'm literally so obsessed with them. I truly believe that losing a pet is one of the deepest forms of loss people can experience. And, they're part of my daily routine. They greet me at the door. I wake up and go to sleep with them. They give me this sense of purpose as the one who takes care of them as their mom. And so when people lose their pets, it's like that loss of their presence and their love, like physically in your life, it's felt so strongly because of how involved you are in each other's lives. And it's such a special bond. And I'm so glad because it can be so difficult, but I loved what you shared about who they'd want to hang out with. Yeah.
They're never not going to be with you. They're going to, be in your wherever you are. And that if you move across the globe, they'll be where you are. If you, go to the grocery store, they're where you are. They're not bound to a place. They're with you because you're love and you're their source of fuel. So of course they're going to be around you, but they're far more likely to interact with you or connect with you or communicate or leave signs or messages. And you're just more fun to be around. Plus, you're more energy for them. When someone's down and grieving and depressed, you're like on a low battery, right? Your battery is like way down here. But when you're up here and you're open and loving and living and doing the things that bring you joy and welcoming another pet into your home and laughing with that pet and loving that new pet, your departed companions get the benefit of all of that love because that's spiritual fuel.
Mm-hmm.
They can top off their tank and be even more active and more productive on their journey. You can fuel them.
That's something people have such a hard time with, I think, to deciding to get another pet because they feel like, they're leaving their loved one behind, their so loved pet. But yeah, it's
There's a lot of guilt involved with that. And I know a lot of my clients struggle with that. Some of them wait, 2 years, 5 years, some of them never get another companion again. And it really is heartbreaking because that's generally speaking not what their companion animals want for them.
we can be so
They,
mean to ourselves in this
we
process.
are,
We
it's
really
like,
are.
it is, it's like punishing ourselves. It's like self-hatred. And if you think about it, how can you best help a companion animal that you've loved so dearly or taken care of for, even if it was a week and you took care of them, doesn't matter how long it is, but somebody that you brought into your home that you loved and cared for, how can you help them on their spiritual journey in the afterlife? You're going to see them again someday, just as you remember them. They will be there just as you remember them. They'll be there to greet you
Oh,
when you
that's so
make your
comforting to know.
transition.
Yeah.
And this is a really cool thing too, and I'll sneak it in here too. I cannot tell you how many times I would open up an animal communication session and their human loved ones came through with
Oh, really?
their animals.
Oh,
Yes.
I
So
love that. That's
they're all
amazing.
they are all together. They are in your soul group. So whoever you loved, parents, grandparents, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, boyfriends, girlfriends, next door neighbors, teachers. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be family. It's whoever you love. You are the common denominator. So I was horrible at math, but remember when we had to do, that common denominator thing? Um, you are it. So even if your cat or dog didn't know your grandparents, they're still part of your soul group. And they
Mhm.
come through to me as an animal communicator. They come through together and I can see them interacting with each other. Some of them are sitting on their laps. Some of them are holding them up. Some of them they're just around each other energetically and you can see them interacting in the same space. It is so comforting to know that all of our loved ones will be there to greet us. And the first in line are going to be your companion animals because they know when you're getting ready to make your transition and they will be there for you just as you remember them. And it'll be an incredible experience. And you'll finally be able to, when we all get to the other side, we'll go, that Karen Anderson was right. Because you know what? It is absolutely exactly the way she described it. Everyone I love is here. My pets were the first one to greet me. There's no grief over here. There's no guilt over here. Everyone just lives beautifully and balanced, and it's all about love. And then you'll say, okay, I should have listened to her. All those, all those years ago, she was right. So that's my hope and true joy that I can, shine the light on, those things that we think about. We all think about what's it going to be like, when we leave our bodies and what's it going to be like when we connect with our loved ones and do we connect with our loved ones? Absolutely.
It's
And
so beautiful and comforting. And I know this information is just going to bring peace to so many people who are really
makes me
struggling right now.
so happy to share it. It does. I get so excited just being able to share it because so many people, myself included, we're hard on ourselves. We we stay in that dark place
Mm.
and we don't know how to get out of it.
Yeah.
And I'll be the first one to tell you I am not a grief specialist. Please, I'm not. I'm a pet loss specialist and an afterlife expert. I can tell you everything and anything about the afterlife and tell you everything and anything about pet loss. I'm not a grief
Mm.
specialist. I don't want to be a grief specialist. I want to be a healing specialist. How do I get out of that dark place and smile again? I mean, sometimes just getting out of bed, sometimes just breathing hurts, right? I mean, sometimes it just hurts to breathe. How do we get there? And
Mm.
that's what I'm writing my next book about. It's
Oh,
all
wow.
about it's all about pet loss and all about that healing journey.
Mm.
So by sharing stories and actual messages from the animals and these golden nuggets, maybe it won't be exactly your story, but there will be something in there that you go, oh, hey, I could do that. Or this person, this worked for them. I'm going to try that. Just so many inspirational stories will be sprinkled in through the book. So I'm very
Oh, that's
excited.
amazing. I can't wait to read it. I think when we first spoke, I shared the story with you about my family dog who unfortunately had to be put down. Shortly after that, Greg, the man that I lost, and I were hiking, and we were at the base of the mountain. And I was like, "Oh, I wish Fetcher were here." And I just like got this little wave of just like feeling him in that moment. And so we went up, we hiked to the top of the mountain, came back down, and right in that exact same spot a family was running with their kids and their dog, their white fluffy dog that reminded me of him. And they were like, come on, Fetcher. And it was right in the exact same spot. And I've never had anything like that happen with an animal. That's like my one and only experience, but it gave me chills. I like ran to the car
Yes.
and called my mom. It was so special. And
And
it was
when
so
that,
out of the blue. I never expected that, but it was like the
right?
perfect place. It was gorgeous outside. It still gives me chills. It was such an amazing experience.
So cool. And when that happens, it's for a reason. Yes, it is a sign. Yes, it is a
Yeah.
message. And yes, you were supposed to see that. And yes, you were supposed to be right there. And you may think it's total chance. No, it's not. You were supposed to experience that. And you have to embrace that and say, oh, thank you so much. Do it again. I want another sign. Do that again. And the
And
more
it was so
excited you
clear.
get,
I knew like deep in my body and my soul that like, yeah, it was so real.
yep. And the more excited we get about it, the more fuel we generate for them, the more they can do things. And then I also have to add, not all animals do that.
Hmm.
And it's not lack of love. So, I've had a lot of animals over the years, you know, quite a few through the nonprofit. So, maybe a couple hundred.
Hmm.
Not all of them are actively sending me signs or messages. It's not a reflection of love. A
Yeah.
lot of it is um, personality. It's just not in their personality to do that. Or maybe they were more quiet or kept to themselves a little bit more and they were a little bit more, shy in nature. So they're not going to be the ones that are sending you, obvious signs or, dropping pennies or feathers or whatever they're doing. So don't say to yourself, well, they must not love me, or I must have done something wrong, or they must be mad at me. No, it's just there are no absolutes when it comes to this work. There's a lot of area where it's a little fuzzy and things aren't going to be exact all the way across the board. And there's many of them that I don't get those obvious signs and messages from. And I've learned not to take that as a personal statement like, hey mom, I don't love you, so I'm not going to send you a sign. Not at all. I've learned that that's just how they do things, and I honor that. So the
Yeah.
more you honor them for who they are, it's fuel, again, spiritual fuel. And all of us, we are all energetic beings. We fuel ourselves with food and water and nutrients. And in the afterlife, they fuel themselves with energy. We are their battery pack, we're their energy storage. So think of that. You can really alter, improve, enhance their spiritual journey by being a good source of spiritual fuel. So think of all the ways you can boost that
Yeah.
through your happy memories, your favorite things that you did. And here's another golden nugget for you I promised to share. They love it when you say their nickname out loud. So, I had a dog named Poopy. She was a Rottweiler. Her real name was Jessie, but I called her Poopy because the first time I took her for a walk, she pooped out on me. So it wasn't that kind of poop. It was a different kind of poop. And so she just loves it when I call to her. She's been, on the other side for many years now, when I call to her as Poopy. So it's because that nickname holds so much love. It's a
Mm.
power source of fuel. So they love it when you call to them, when you say their nicknames out loud. They love it when you celebrate their birthdays and think of them around the holidays. They love that. They love it.
That's so good to know. I love that. Karen, I could talk to you all day about this stuff, I think. I do want to wrap this up with two final questions that I'm asking everyone. And so the first is, what is the most beautiful life lesson you've learned through your experience as a pet loss specialist?
I think that is what has just happened to me is
Mm.
right or wrong decision, good or bad decision, timed right or timed wrong decision. I'm still a good mom. I did the best I could. And going forward, I'm going to honor their journey and honor myself as well. Every time I have a loss, I'm going to honor me. And I would love for those of you who have lost a pet, honor yourself, honor your pet, and know that everything is meant to be in the big grand scheme of things. Someday it'll all make sense, or maybe it won't make sense, or it won't need to make sense because it'll just be love at that point.
Hmm. Yeah. I think you kind of just answered the final question, but I'll say it anyway. And if there's anything you want to add, feel free. So if you could go back to, a point in your life where you were really struggling at your lowest, what would you say to yourself to help get you through those moments to stay inspired to keep going?
I would say that the self-hating, um, the blaming is probably one of the most destructive things that we can do. And
Yeah.
we have to learn to love ourselves in spite of what happened. We have to accept that we had our intention that day in that moment was never to harm. Our intention was to do the best we could. And I think that is something I need myself to hear and for others to hear too. It's what's in your heart, that
Yeah.
your intention was in the right place.
I think so many people will resonate with that. That's a really special message. So important. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing your story and your vulnerability as well.
Thank you so much.
Hmm. Oh, this has been so wonderful. I want to go run downstairs and hug my puppies and
I know. Oh my God. I'm sorry I
gosh, I just love
rambled.
them so much. Just you taught me so much today, and I know everyone who watches this is just gonna absolutely love it. Before we sign off, tell us what's going on in your world right now. Where can we best connect with you? What do you have going on?
Okay, the best way to connect with me is through my website, KarenAnderson.net.
Okay.
Not .com, don't go to .com, it's net. And I have animal communication courses for those who are new. Anyone has the ability to learn animal communication and get that one message that helps them get through their grief. And I also have my two books, Hear All Creatures and The Amazing Afterlife of Animals. And then the third one that's coming out hopefully soon.
Yay.
And yes, and I also have a free app. I can't bring it up because it'll be too small to see, but it is I have a web version of it and it's a free app for your phone. It's called Pet Loss, Hope, and Healing, and it's the and sign. Pet Loss, Hope, and Healing. And if you go to my website and opt in, or if you go to my website and just lurk around, you're going to see it on there somewhere. But it's free to download. It's tons of resources. Register as a member and you get more content. You get all kinds of really cool stuff. It doesn't cost anything. It's all free. But check those resources out. Most of all, just remember Your pets want you to be who you are and to keep living your life. And don't live in the past, live in the moment, live for here and now. And you are beautiful just the way you are, no matter what happens. And they love you for that.
Oh my gosh. You're wonderful. I love it, all the work that you're doing, everything you're offering to the world. It's amazing. Thank you so much, Karen.